Hey, welcome to episode number 31 of Red River Podcast. Today, super excited. It's not many times that we get to. I mean, yeah, we do get to talk to a lot of cool shit. A lot of cool people. Right. But it's the first time that we actually get to talk to someone who made a movie that we just seen and we fucking love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, me and Langan are here. We're doing this shit via Skype. I don't think it's going to matter once you listen to it. But welcome Damien Leone, or is it Leone?
Leone.
Okay, cool.
There's a lot of everybody's pronouncing it Leone, which whatever.
Yeah, whatever. As long as they're pronouncing it, because like you. All right, so you made a movie called All Hallows Eve, which I saw, which was like an anthology that was like 2013, and what stuck out to me was really the cover. The cover had a clown on it, and I was like, man, that clown's looking kind of... There was something about that clown that was kind of like unsettling, and I never watched it.
Very much. Like, I don't... I've seen so many horror movies at my age, and like it's more just like I watch it, enjoy it and stuff, but I don't get creeped out by anything. I got to tell you, I was a little bit creeped out, this clown.
For Terrifier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm going back to All Hallows Eve. So basically, like I'm seeing the cover, and I always flip through it, and I didn't really know what it was. And then fast forward to like 2017, we get a trailer for Terrifier. So I'm like, Terrifier. I'm like, okay, that looks like the same clown that was on the cover of this movie. And I hit play on the trailer, and it looked like a movie that was like specifically made for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this looks kind of like... It had, I hate to say grindhouse, because it's so cliche to say, but it just had that vibe. It had that, like, just like the I don't know if it's the right word, cinematography or whatever, like the film that you use, or
sure.
like the...
the lighting we used was pretty specific to a time period,
yeah.
I would say.
Even the opening where it puts Terrifier across the screen, that shot right there felt very retro to me in the way I love,
Well, let me put it to you this way, and I'll shut the fuck up and let you talk. So, are you a rock guy, or do you like metal? Do you like hip hop? What's your thing?
Everything.
Cool.
Yeah. I would say I have a diverse taste in music.
So for me, if you're a New York guy, which I assume you are, like listening to something like Joey Badass or like Pro Arrow or Action Bronson that have that boom bap, or listening to Toxic Holocaust, which is a thrash metal band, like you hear certain things that make you stop and think to yourself, like, this is speaking to me. This is what I remember to be a horror movie. Like, you made a slasher movie. You made a real fucking slasher movie that so far it's the best horror movie I've seen, not only this year, but in a very long time.
Wow, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's cool.
So if you could just tell us, like how did you start making movies? Like how'd you get into it?
Yeah, man. Even I lose track of how it started, But I mean, I say this all the time, but my mother named me after The Omen, for real. She would go into video stores when it came out, when I was, when she was pregnant with me. And she would try and find the cover, and it had to be spelled the way it was spelled in the movie, because she loved that name, and she loved horror movies. So ever since I was, 2, going on 3, she would show me horror movies. She didn't care. She was like the coolest mother in the world. Is the coolest mother in the world. Took me to see the Lost Boys in the movie theaters. When I was 3 years old, I remember that so specifically. And it was just mind blowing. And
what does she think of what you do now? I mean, that's got to be like she must be.
That's funny actually, because
she must be patting herself on the back.
Yeah, right.
She's very cool, very proud of me, everything I do. She was always very supportive. And I think the night the movie Terrifier was on video on demand, she rented it in her apartment, and then she called me at like 11 o'clock at night. And she's just like complimenting me, and as always, she's very proud, oh, it was great, I loved it, all this stuff. And then for the first time ever, she gets quiet, and then she's like, Dame, but like I was watching this movie. She's like, and there's a couple of scenes. She's like, I wondered for the first time, like, is there something wrong with my son? And she, there was like a tone in her voice that I never heard before. She was like kind of like half serious, and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, you showed me all these movies. I'm like, it's just me making like creepy shit, But yeah, she was very proud. She thought it was cool. But I realized that was like the only rational, response she should have had to watching that movie.
I learned it from watching you. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, right.
Like for me, a funny story about Damien. Well, with the name Damien, I was a huge fan of the second Omen. That's the one I remember. I don't remember the first, but I'm like 40 years old, so I remember like the second one is the one that I remember, and I always hated that my name was Sam and it wasn't Damien. Like I wanted my name to be Damien because I wanted to be Damien Thorne, like completely.
Yeah.
But anyway, so all right, so you come from definitely like a horror background, like your mom helped you out and all that. So
the horror background started. So then I was just fascinated with horror movies, and then I eventually, maybe around the age of 12, I started seriously getting into Tom Savini because I grew up watching his VHS tape Screen Greats. I don't know. I mean, we're the same. Yeah, we're all around the same age. So if you probably remember the VHS for Friday the 13th Part 6, one of the previews was for Scream Greats. So I grew up watching Friday the 13th Part 6, and then I would see Scream Greats. And then when I went to the mom and pop video store that I lived in, they had Scream Greats. So I'd watch that all the time. But I didn't, watching that probably when I was like 8, I wasn't really interested in actually learning special effects, but I was fascinated by it. But then by the time I was around 12, I actually was like, I want to start playing around with that stuff. So my mother took me to a horror convention when I was around that age, and I bought my first makeup kit. Somebody was selling real machetes that were dulled, and they had the Tom Savini semicircle cut out. And I was like, oh my God, it was like being my Toys R Us, So it's like I bought that. I bought my first bottle of fake blood, my first starter makeup kit, and then I went home and I was just like experimenting on all my friends and using a machete. And a neighbor had a camcorder, so we were filming all that. And then that's how it gradually I got into filmmaking, because my very close friend's father would lend us his camcorder, and it started with us filming the effects that I was learning, and then we started making little stories, and then I really got into filmmaking, and that's really how it took off.
I got to tell you, Savini is he's like patient zero when it comes to like when you think of everything he's done, and obviously there's other people, but there's something about him, like for me, like when I saw Maniac and the head explosion with the shotgun.
That's epic. One of the best.
It just epic. It fucking literally blew my
He got on my radar just because every film that I was seeing in horror that I loved, I'm like, there was this common thread, and it's always this Tom Savini guy. I'm like, God, I got to know more about this guy. Every film I love, he's doing the kills.
And it was horrifying. Like there's certain things that I remember as a kid that affected me, and I was like a mom and pop shop. Like I would go, and the bigger the box, the better. I would pick it up and I'd be like, oh, Gorgon video, like this looks cool, like Microwave Massacre. So so that fucking that head being blown off, and also Toxic Avenger, like that head being ran over, like those were the two that really, like, I would laugh, but in my head I'm thinking like, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
But Toxic Avenger one, especially because it was a kid. That's another one of my favorites. The box in my video store was so like deteriorated, and like you could tell like sun was beating on it. It was all faded out. Like like how much do those boxes stick out in your memory seeing them for the first time?
Oh yeah.
You can't compare it to it. It's amazing.
You can't compare it, and in a way, like I like. Technology is just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I play music, so it's the same thing. Like we like looking at records just like we looking at boxes, but I guess like it just evolves into like some Netflix or Amazon now. It's like, and you flip through it, and I guess that's just the way it is. But like, like to pick up a box, to spin it around, and I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. Sure. I'm sure you can get your movie to a zillion more people today than you could have if maybe you did it 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Do you think so, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, unless your movie's going into every Blockbuster, at the time, and they have 100 copies in every Blockbuster. But it's the same thing. I mean, digitally, you're going to reach way more people though at the end of the day.
Yeah,
way more.
Moving before we move forward, what is your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Honestly, it's a tie between. You know what? I say it's a tie between 6 and 4, but if I had to choose, I would go with 6. Honestly, even though Savini the effects, or was one of the effects guys in Part 4. But yeah, I got to go with 6. It's just like a total package. It's the most fun, and I think Jason's badass in it. There's a lot of good stuff about 6.
And another thing, Tom Matthews, who's in the movie from the poster behind you,
absolutely, yeah, he's the man.
And every year, if you ask me, it changes. Like, what's the best horror movie of all time? One year, I'm going to say Halloween '78. The other year, I'm going to say Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I gave up. I have like 10 favorites that are just on like a merry-go-round in my head. It's like you can't possibly pick a favorite. It's apples and oranges.
It's impossible. It's like picking. If you can, then you don't really love movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Because you even if you make that top 10 list like you do on Facebook, you're like, oh, I totally forgot 30 other movies. Or
I can't do those things. It's too much pressure.
Too much pressure.
Yeah.
So going back to All Hallows Eve, all right. So Art the Clown, who was like this, he was like totally the revolving character of the movie, but it was like an anthology. And I loved the fact that, of course, it takes place on Halloween. That already is awesome. The fact that there's VHS tapes, that's even cooler. So, like, did you know after you made the movie that you wanted to do something with him?
Oh, always, before I made that movie, because that movie wasn't my idea. I made the first 2 short films, The Ninth Circle, which is the first segment in All Hallows Eve, and Terrifier, which is the last segment in All Hallows Eve. So I just made those as short films from, I think, 2006 to 2010 or 11. And I just threw them on YouTube and was just hoping for the best. I put them into some film festivals. They were in some, and they got some accolades and stuff, but nothing huge. But then Terrifier started getting a lot of hits at the time, especially for something that was like 20 minutes long. I think it had like the original upload of Terrifier, the short had like 100,000 views on it. And, from no word of mouth, it was just all word of mouth basically, but like nothing, hyping it or anything like that. It was just people saying, oh, this is cool, and just passing it along. So that was, and so the producer of All Hallows Eve found it, and then he contacted me personally, and he said, I'm making this, this horror anthology. He's like, I'm trying to find different filmmakers on YouTube. And it's like, and we want to have Halloween themed short films, and we want it to, comprise, this short film. And then he's like, but your clown is fantastic. He's like, I'd love for the clown to be like the face of the movie. That would be like the main short. And then I talked him into just like, well, he didn't know about Ninth Circle. I was like, I have this other short film that he's in. I was like, and then maybe you can you throw me a couple extra bucks and we can make like, another short and wrap around, and, we don't have to find other filmmakers, it'll just be my thing. So he was like totally cool with that, which was awesome. And so we went and made it. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with some of it. I can't even watch a lot of it.
Well, you know what's unique about that movie, and then we'll like move on because I know you probably don't want to talk about All Hallows Eve.
Talk about whatever you want.
Cool. To me, like, there was a home invasion with a fucking alien. You know what I'm saying? Like that. But still, like, you know what? Like, how many movies can say that? Like, it's so, first of all, my favorite subgenre is slasher. And then next to that is home invasion. Because to me, they feel so real. Like, they could happen.
Sure.
Until you throw the alien in, then I But still, like, it was just such a unique thing. And what I loved about the wraparound is that when you're a jaded old school horror fan and you just, I feel like I have the best intentions, like when I go to a movie and watch, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is going to be the one, or this is going to be something that, like hits you like at like Inside or like Martyrs or something like that. What I really liked about it was you made the clown almost like interact with reality. Like you wanted art to come out of the movie and like you're in your safe home watching this movie, and you know you're thinking like, okay, this is just like an anthology, but the wraparound was so effective because when Art starts going to the TV and trying to break out of the TV, it's almost like you can't stop him, and that to me really hit me like, wow, that's whether intentional or unintentional, it really worked for me because you're trying to turn off a movie that is fake, and it's trying to jump in your reality. Like, perfect. So good.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean, I think what kind of worked with All Hallows Eve, like you just said with the wraparound story, was most anthologies, the wraparound story is kind of like an afterthought, or you never, you know what I mean? It's just like, it just pops up in the beginning, maybe
like
it comes
a creep
back.
show.
Exactly. But, which is the best anthology, I think, ever.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Yep.
Can't top it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But I think for All Hallows Eve, like I tried to make it where the wraparound was the movie, especially like where I believe in some sequences I actually cut back to them watching the tape like while it was going on. So you felt like that was the movie, and this was like they really were just watching these stories instead of like just forgetting about these characters and then coming back at the end. So I think you connected with the babysitter, but again, like that was the opportunity I had at the time to make All Hallows Eve. It wasn't something I sat down and wrote and I was like, I want to make this. It's like I had to create that movie within the parameters of what was presented to me. So, I didn't want to do a VHS tape. Some people like it, I was so against it. I thought it was ridiculous, and I told the producer, I'm like, dude, that is so The Ring. I'm like, people are going to just tear us apart for ripping off The Ring, because his idea was, I think, for a fact, VHS, the movie VHS had just come out. So most distributors or production companies, like they just want to jump on whatever's hot at the time. So that was the that was the hot anthology at the time. So it was just trying to just bite off of VHS. So he's like, no, let's just put a VHS tape in there. And I'm like, oh god, well if we got to do it. But I did come up with it appearing in the kid's bag. And, not knowing where it came from and it being on there or whatever. But whatever. I mean, it was what it, and I had to just, work with what I had. And some things work. I was just happy that it reached a nice amount of people and, Art the Clown got out there a little more that way. And he's always pretty solid. So whatever he's in kind of works,
It just be like just the makeup. I don't know what the fuck it is. Because for the most part, like, I can't think of many clown movies. There was It.
Besides It.
Stitches.
That was good.
Stitches was great. Did you watch Stitches?
I haven't seen it, no.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah.
And then the other one was Clown, Eli Roth's Clown.
I haven't seen that one yet. So, I've seen Clown House.
Ah, yes, that's right, yeah.
Since I was very little, but I always thought that was creepy. I thought those three clowns were creepy because they were silent and very clown-like and everything, so I thought that was cool.
Because, like, what I guess the face works.
It does. For me, like, the black around the mouth and the eyes and that hook on the nose.
Oh, yeah,
And I think, too, I like that it's just black and white. There's no any kind of brightish color in it. It's just, kind of bleak to me, what I mean, as opposed to having some red or some other thing in there. But just what he can do without having dialogue is amazing. I mean, really great performance.
The different, like, because the guy who played him in the short is different. Like, so David Howard Thornton, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's the guy who plays him in Terrifier. He fucking added something brilliant. I don't know what it is. He moved like a mime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's funny because when you think of like the slasher movies like Jason, Who Doesn't Talk, or Michael Myers, some come out better than others. I'm not knocking the guy who did the first one. I'm sure he did, he did a great job. But there was something that David did that really fucking sold it. Like his movements, his completely awesome. So we'll get to Terrifier now. Just real quick, like I live in West Babylon. You guys shot in Deer Park?
For just the pizzeria.
Yeah, for the pizzeria.
Yeah.
How the fuck did that come about?
Yeah, that was one of our executive producers, he's friends with the people who own it. So we needed some kind of restaurant or diner, and we couldn't find a place till the last minute, and he came up with that. Worked great. People there were amazing.
Yeah. So basically, the movie, you know, I'm not. This isn't going to be like a spoiler episode because it's fresh, and
I think at this point we could talk about spoilers, right? I mean, why not? You know.
I don't want to give too much, you know, because I've been pushing the movie as much as possible. And let me tell you, like, you should know, like, the movie's getting like really cool response. Like, it's like people are really connecting to it that want something kind of unapologetic, vicious, and just like a throwback. Like, just no backstory, no nothing. It's like, here is a slasher movie that is just brutal. Mm-hmm. You know, are you getting that from like the viewings?
Let me ask you this, because I kind of gauge it personally just through my Instagram and people who contact me personally and stuff like that. And I see a lot of tons of great comments, like tons of great art has been coming out recently, like lots of fan art, which is like so amazing. But like, I see a lot of things where they're saying like, oh, this is like the talk of the horror community and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how genuine that is. Like, I'm kind of disconnected to a degree. So I mean, like, what do you guys think? I'm curious. Like, how big is the hype or the buzz surrounding this movie, like within the horror community?
I mean, like the horror nerd discussion group.
Yeah, I started a Facebook group called Horror Nerd Discussion, and everyone's like, that's the picture that I sent you via email. And like all my friends, there's only one that was like, oh, it was okay, but like 9 out of 10, you know, and 9 out of 10, and I shit on him. I was like, because he was like, oh, I don't know, it was just like hyped and like, you know, it wasn't even scary. I was like, yo, we're like 40 years old. Like,
there's always one of those guys.
Aside from like unemployment and cancer, like, what the fuck is scary? Like, are you out of your mind? Like, you fucking watch a movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, The Shining is scary. I was like, yeah, The Shining was scary because you watched it as a kid.
Right.
So when you put it back on, it just rejuices up that feeling of being a kid. Like when I watch the original Halloween, it makes me feel uncomfortable because I attach those feelings that I had as a kid.
Right.
You know, if I watched Halloween today at 40 years old, I'd be like, oh, this is all right.
Yeah, no. It's not going to scare.
Yeah, but those are legitimately two of the greatest horror movies ever made. You're talking about Stanley Kubrick and John.
Yeah. Overall, though, the response is way good.
But,
yeah, the response from like our friends, like, you know, they've all been positive. Yeah. Like people, you know, it's an indie flick, and I think the poster really kind of is just so gruesome that you're kind of like, what the fuck is this? You know, like my girlfriend watched it, and she's not really into something that's so. I don't want to say over the top, but like she's, you know, like the upside down sawing, like, you know, that's not something that she's going to basically be into. But she just told her mom and her sister that live in Arizona to watch it.
Wow. So. Okay. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, her mom is like your mom. She used to bring her to horror movies. Like I said, you made a really unapologetic movie. Like, I put it on late at night, all right? So I rented it from like Vudu, and I was like, okay. I didn't really know what to expect, and I'm watching it, and the beginning, you know, from the beginning made me feel uncomfortable, which is weird. Nothing makes me feel uncomfortable. So I think the disfigured face intro was, you know, very. It looked real. It looked like that lady whose face got eaten by the gorilla.
That's what it's based.
That's right.
That's what it's based on. Yeah, 100%.
Oh shit.
Okay. Yeah. So whoever did that.
Now, did you were mentioning the effects when you were younger and the special effects, and that you were interested in Tom Savini? Did you do the effects on this film on Terrifier?
Yeah, I did all of them.
You did everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, my producer Phil Falcone. He assisted me the whole way with everything, but I mean, yeah, I'm the effects guy.
Wow,
is that that
really well done, man?
Yeah, right. Definitely, and in a land of like CGI, you know, like we're like people like us are just so used to practical effects, you know.
There's no. it's like one of those things where like I'm not a person who hates CGI at all. Like there's times when CGI is absolutely the answer, but there's other times where it's just not. And they just I don't know if it's, I think a lot of times they use it out of either convenience because they don't have to spend the time on set doing it. You know, they could just like, we'll just do it later. Let's just get through the day, you know, and film all of our shit. But I don't know. Like then there's things like where, not to knock, I mean, The Walking Dead, but like when you see those like bullet hits to the head and you just see cartoon blood spray out, maybe other people it just works, but someone like me, it takes me instantly right out of the moment. I'm just like, all right, that's a cartoon. You know what I mean? Even though I'm suspending my disbelief and, you know, believing that there's zombies, you know, like I'm already past that point. But like you're setting up this real world and then you see just cartoon blood flying around. It just takes me out of it.
I thought personally, I mean, I don't know because I don't make movies and I'm not, you know, but I just thought it was like one of those things where it's like, I guess the business changed, you know, just like anything from like porn to fucking music. Like people just pirate stuff, you know, and I just figured that there wasn't enough money. Or, like, there is enough money, but if you can cut corners on practical shit, you know, you just use CGI, because it seems like movies are going to start bypassing theaters and just go straight to, like, Netflix or Amazon, like, except, like, Marvel movies.
Right.
Yeah, it's just the 1% right now of, you know, Hollywood just making the theatrical movies. So, yeah, you have all your franchises, and that's it. So it's going to be very interesting. But you know what? I really don't think it comes down to budget with CGI. Like supposedly from what I know, it's CGI actually costs more.
Oh, yeah. What do I know?
I read that too, but like it didn't make sense to me. But
I don't know.
It costs. No. I mean, this is what I hear, but supposedly it costs more, and they just don't like wasting time on set. You know, like they just want. You know what I mean? If they could just do it all afterwards, where everything's done and off their shoulders, and they just let the visual effects guys worry about it. But not only that, I think it's like, you know, like studio execs and whoever's in charge, especially huge movies. Like I'm going to give you a perfect example. Like the new Beauty and the Beast movie. Believe it or not, I would watch a movie like that. I watch all types of movies.
I think you have to cleanse the palate.
Exactly. Like that. So the Beast in that was originally this beautiful makeup, like this animatronic. No, it wasn't even animatronic. It was just makeup on the actor, and it was phenomenal. Like there's some test footage that you can find. It's flawless. It looks exactly like the design in the movie, except it's an actor. It's really there. It's gorgeous. But for whatever reason, you know, I think it's because they have all of the money and they know that CGI is at the forefront of technology. You know, so it's like, well, we have to have the greatest toys. It's not even a question of what's better or not. It's like if that's the most expensive thing, we must use that. So they just use it whether or not it's right or not. And most of the time, it's not right. It's for things like that. Like Guillermo del Toro knows how to use both of them perfectly, seamlessly.
Yeah.
Because he was a makeup artist. He knows about practical effects and everything, and a designer. So he knows exactly how to marry the two, you know, perfectly.
What did you think of The Shape of Water?
Honestly,
yo, he ain't watching.
I gotta
speak.
Listen, I'll tell you a funny story. not to knock. I mean, I can't possibly.
He's a master. Yeah, there's no knocking.
I can't possibly knock.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, he's doing good.
Not only that, Pan's Labyrinth was the first time in my life, I swear to God, that I ever cried watching a movie. My entire life. When that little girl died, a tear fell from my eye the first time in my life watching.
It's brilliant.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So he can, you know, he's a master no matter what. But Shape of Water, I did not feel, I could not suspend my disbelief. I did not believe for a second that woman would be attracted to that creature.
I agree with you 1,000%.
I was thinking vice versa.
1,000%.
She was a butterface.
So I thought she had something, but I mean, no matter what, I just did not believe it. And it just seemed very contrived and very forced. Like they were just telling the audience to just accept it. And I wasn't buying that, and I wasn't buying that they were just letting people just walk in and out of this government.
Yo, the Merry Maid was in there cleaning up.
Yeah.
They just allow them in there to just, you know, oh, this monster just bit this guy's hand off. Could you guys get in here with a mop?
Yeah.
Like just real casual. And her friend is so like when she admits she fucked this fish,
Exactly.
she's like, all right, like, really?
Like, oh, what's it like? It's just like everything was just like you're supposed to accept whatever they throw at you, and nothing was really. A lot of things weren't making sense. Having said that, though, gorgeous movie.
Gorgeous. Okay.
Like this movie. I mean, it's a well-made movie.
I'm with you on that. Okay, when I first saw it, I said to myself, okay, this guy's a master. This is what he does. I went and I watched it, and I'm thinking, shit, I don't care. Like, I'm watching this, and visually it's amazing, and you look, and you're like, oh, this is so visually awesome. This story, like, you really have to, like, you have to buy in. To me, after I was done with it, and I found out it won Best Picture, it made sense because it's one of those movies that makes you remember what a movie can be with imagination. It's very, like, majestic and huge, but the story was so bland and, like, okay, who cares? Michael Shannon is amazing.
He was my favorite part of the movie.
He was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Everything else was like, okay, I guess. But like visually, like still like Del Toro is just like ridiculous.
I think the biggest like travesty is that he's not, maybe now he will, but I know he's been trying to make At the Mountains of Madness, that's his dream project forever. Yeah. He wanted to make a rated R, like the biggest budget movie with Tom Cruise. But apparently they just didn't trust it being, they didn't want it to be rated R. I think that was the issue. And then he refused to make it or something.
He's our next guest, so we'll ask him.
I believe it. Why not?
Listen, I'm just saying. So, okay, visually, Terrifier, like you said, the effects and all that other stuff are so awesome, like, for what we're used to. What are some of the movies that inspired you, like, as far as effects go, that made you... like when you're making this movie, like what were the movies that were in your head that you're like, man, this is what influenced me?
By far all the Savini slasher gags, Maniac, Dawn of the Dead, all of his stuff. But growing up, I mean, everything. American Werewolf in London, I still think is like the transformation scene is just the greatest thing. I watch it all the time on YouTube.
Still looks amazing. Yep.
Still looks amazing to this day. I remember having the VHS. I would just invite my friends just up into my house just to watch that scene all the time when we were little, just to show them that and just things like that. But yeah, I mean, this movie was all this stuff I learned from Savini, just trying to utilize all those tricks and something I'm so proud of, and it's in like probably not even that effective, and it's in the movie for 2 seconds, but it's during the Hacksaw scene, like, because I tried to use like Savini's whole thing is to just use as much of the real actor as possible, unless absolutely necessary to go to a dummy or something, So like I wanted to keep the girl hanging upside down, I wanted to use the actress for as many shots as I could. So there's like, I think the last shot before we cut to her as a dummy, I built like, we put like a prosthetic slice up her chest, and like I built a replica hacksaw that was split in half that he could just like press up against, the wound. And we had like Savini blood pumps hooked up to the back, away from the camera where you wouldn't see. So it looked like it was stuck in her chest plate, and we were pumping the blood and it's spraying, you know what I mean? And she's actually there reacting. So to me, that was like me just trying to like impress Tom Savini somewhere. Like, oh, this is like everything you told me.
That was savage, man, that kill.
That was,
holy shit.
That's one of those things that people are going to talk about,
yeah.
Like the most, like where it's just like, just definitely like, that's the one that everyone brings up. The pizzeria one too. Like that was the guy cleaning the toilet. I like the... I'll tell you this, because I remember the short at the end of All Hallows Eve where like Art gets kicked out for like smearing shit and piss. So I like that you kind of brought it in, and then like you it cuts to it and it's got Art written in shit on the toilet, which I thought was pretty fucking funny. So so when you're coming up with the hacksaw scene, when do the actresses know that this is what you're thinking of doing, and what was their reaction? Like, it's
from the very beginning. I mean, you got to tell them when they're reading for the part what happens, especially because there's nudity involved.
Yeah.
Some actresses, I believe, when I auditioned actresses, sometimes I had them read for like all 3 parts, or I just gave them more or less like a generic some generic lines from a character, and then I would decide which character they would kind of write for or not. But then like some actresses were like, I can't be considered for that part. Like I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? But Catherine Corcoran, who played Dawn, was just like all for it. When she came in, and she loved it, and she's like, if we do this scene, she's like, this scene has to be fucking badass. It's got to be perfect. We got to make sure this is like the coolest thing, And we would both joke to each other. We're like, this is like horror movie history, because neither one of us saw that specifically done in a movie before. It may have been. I haven't seen nearly, every horror movie.
I don't think I have.
No, I think
I know there's things similar, and especially I think when we were in post-production of this movie, my DP called me up and he's like, have you seen Bone Tomahawk? And I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah.
You're right.
He's like, yeah. It's like they basically did the exact same thing, and my fucking heart sank. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. And then he sent me the clip on YouTube, and I watched it. And it's brilliant. It's fucking brilliant. I mean, it's probably better than ours. It's a little different, but it's just like, it's so perfect. It's horrifying. But I mean, it wasn't done with a hacksaw. It was done differently. It was done to a guy. I mean, it's different enough.
I saw Bone Tomahawk, and it didn't even come to mind until you just said it. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like
I love Bone Tomahawk
because that dude like used his hands, right?
Yeah,
he ripped it.
It was like a wishbone,
tool, right?
They had like a guy on each leg, and then someone in the middle, like hacking him with a tomahawk.
Gotcha.
That movie, yeah, you're right. Like, but still, like, wow, that's another one of those interesting releases where it's like you get Kurt Russell, Richard Jenkins from The Shape of Water, like, and somehow it just goes straight to like video, like it didn't even get a theatrical.
Well, who's the mainstream audience for that these days, right? I mean, it's just all about the Avengers Part 6, or we're about to,
or kids movies.
Yeah, well, he has kids, so he knows
That's it. It's kids movies or superheroes, and maybe like one drama set aside.
Yeah.
Well, that guy ended up doing another movie, Brawl in Cell Block 99, which was pretty cool too.
I saw that. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Yeah, I thought Vince Vaughn was great.
But yes, all right. So you're like, for me, another point about Terrifier is when you're watching a slasher movie, the actual slasher is like so not in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really see Michael, you don't really see any of these characters, but Art just kind of flipped the script on it. He's such a big part of the movie, and he's in almost every scene once he starts going and stuff like that. So was that something that you were even conscious of?
100%. I wanted, first of all, I wanted the whole movie to feel like the last 15 minutes of every slasher, where the killer finally comes into it and like the shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? So I was like,
you did,
yeah, thank you. I was like, is it possible to pull that off? I don't know. I don't know if I pulled it off successfully. I mean, like a lot of people say, it gets redundant, and I could definitely see that. I mean, it's a tricky thing to pull off, but I figured, and that's another reason why I love Friday the 13th Part 6, because I feel like in that one, Jason's more prominent than in all the other ones. Like, they cut to him a lot more, even when he's not killing. They always make sure they cut back to him, like in the woods, just trekking along, just like
walking,
just walking. There's a lot of that. You know what I mean? So I wanted to try and pull that off. I wanted to cut out as much of the stereotypical crap of all the characters you don't care about, just talking about nonsense and you're just like, all right, when's the killer gonna pop up? All right, waiting.
In a slasher flick, that's the star. That's who we want. We want to see Jason. We want to see Freddy. We want the villain.
But it's funny because like I didn't really think of it like that until you see the clown and all these scenes, and you're like, he's the star.
Yeah.
Like, he is the actual star. So, and what were some of like the slasher movie tropes that you wanted to avoid? Anything that you wanted to just consciously stay away from?
Consciously avoid. I don't know about avoid. There's a lot of things that we did that are typical. But I mean, some things where we like flip the switch a little bit. I mean, everything's been done before, but like killing the lead actress off in the middle, I thought that would be cool, like a little nod to Psycho, but also more about just setting up this whole movie was about setting up Art the Clown as a villain. You know what I mean? Like, even if a lot of things didn't work, and granted, tons of things didn't work. Like, I'm the most critical. Believe me, I know everything that didn't work or could have been done better in this movie. You know what I mean?
That's what we do, man. Like I said, I play music, and if you play me back something, I'm like, that didn't sound good.
that didn't work. That didn't work. Wait, I'm sorry. What were we?
Oh, you were just saying like certain things that you were trying to avoid or even embrace. Like maybe there were some slasher tropes that you felt were okay to embrace. You know, you said you killed off the main actress in the middle.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool. Like, yeah. So we were trying to set him up as the villain, you know, because we're gonna do more. So I really wanted him to just be like you just feel this presence of what this character could be, and is he cool enough and like savage enough to hold his own movie and stuff like that. So I was really just trying that out. But well, another thing that we tried to do differently was the gun. And some people,
I was waiting for you to stop because I was gonna say the gun is just.
Right.
I was not. Who fucking like that just threw me off. I'm like, wait. He was like, fuck it. He's like, you're like kicking my ass, and this is not gonna happen. Like, I'm just gonna fucking shoot you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like Harrison Ford and fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Exactly. I heard someone else make that comparison. I did not have that in mind, but that's fantastic.
No. It sounds like we're sucking your dick, but the easy part, like I was just saying this, and this is why, seriously, I was like scrolling through Facebook, and we started a podcast, and we talk to our friends that are mostly musicians, but also, we talk to, our next guest is Damien Maffei, who's in the Strangers movie, like the sack guy.
Wow.
Frank Sabatella, who does a lot of horror stuff here. Mark Schoenbach does a lot of cool posters. So we get to like venture out and do stuff like that. And I saw a Gmail attached to the Facebook, and I was like, fuck. I'm like, I really like this movie, and I want to talk to anyone from this fucking movie. And when you wrote back, I was like, wait, this guy just wrote back. I'm like, I gotta fucking talk. So we really love the movie, and I think what it is like, listen, maybe no one else is gonna see it. Maybe no one else will give a shit. But I don't feel that way. I think anyone who watches it and knows what they're getting into are really gonna like it. I think Art the Clown is like lightning in a bottle, and it's just a matter of like it getting to the right audience. And like this is the slasher movie you've been waiting for.
If slasher is your subgenre, there's no way you can't not like this film.
Yeah.
It's right in your wheelhouse. It gives you everything you would want from a slasher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you know what you do very well too, in the short and the movie as well, the low battery on the cell phone. The things that you kind of exploit where it's just like you're thinking like, you know what? If you're stranded somewhere, the car's not going to start. Like things that you really can't help, that if something were to pop up, it's like, all right, now what are you going to do? Especially now, like I've been places where like my cell phone is low. No one's killed me yet, but I mean, like, if that's the case, so it's these relatable situations where it's like, okay, maybe the clown thing might not happen, but you're in this position where if someone did want to murder you, like you would be in like a vulnerable position if you can't start your car, your battery doesn't work. Definitely worked in that short.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hardest stuff to write now when you're writing a slasher, because everybody has a fucking phone. You know what I mean? So it's like anybody could just call the cops at any second. So you're trying to figure out all these ways. There's only so many ways to get rid of the phone. It's like the battery dies, they drop the phone. It's that gets very tricky. That's hard to pull off. So I don't know. The next movie, there's going to be more cell phones, so I got to come up with more ways to be
maybe
able
set it in like Amish country or something. Nobody's got.
Yeah, what about
electric.
an Amish slasher?
Yeah, unless you're setting it, in a pre-cell phone world, it's definitely a challenge to figure out how to do it. And another trope you were talking about, common tropes, is like I see a lot of people complaining about like the killer getting, the victim knocking down the killer but not killing him and then running away, when they have like a million opportunities to kill him, That's just one of those things where it's like you want the movie to keep going. It's like, yeah, I could have any of the characters chop his head off, at the 5-minute mark, and then we'll just have a nice little short film.
But that makes sense, because like if me, a regular person who's murdering isn't in my blood, I might just knock the guy down and get the hell out of there. I might not think in real life to like, oh, I'm gonna find a blunt object and beat his brains out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. I don't think it's that easy. As you're horrified. You just want to get out of there. If you find you find the smallest opportunity just to hold him off for a second. Like the girl slams the spike into his foot, and that's it. She just bought herself a couple of seconds. She's out of there. She's going to rely on her her speed more than her strength to find another object or whatever.
Another thing that I liked about Art is just when he would do fucked up shit. Like, he would find it so funny. Like, he would find it so like, he was just laughing to himself. And I don't know, it's just so effective because you're like, and then that garbage bag. Like, it's just so, what was the idea with that? Like, you were just some random garbage bag? You're like, no rhyme, no reason?
No, I don't like, well, not that I don't like, but I didn't want to do the same thing where in like all the slasher movies, it's like they have to constantly find weapons. Or they just disappear and then they just show up with another weapon. And it's like, well, where the hell did he get that? Like, like Jason just disappears and then he shows up with like a weed whacker. It's like, where did he find that?
Good point, good point.
So it's like, why not just...
Weed whacker.
Yeah, so he just carries around his stash. He doesn't have to look for his weapons. He's got everything. It's like his bag of tricks. You never know what he's going to pull out of it. So,
did you know when you were making the film, I would imagine endings are different. Did you film more than one ending for this movie, or did you know exactly how you wanted it to end?
Well, I always knew that it was going to end with the girl, like the wraparound, where you find out that it was her the entire time. But we did shoot a version where... Wait,
what?
Oh, wait. See, a lot of people don't get that. Maybe you didn't get it either.
No.
Okay, so, yes. So the girl on the talk show in the beginning, the disfigured girl is Victoria. Is the
no, that I got.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I thought you were saying that she was Art the Clown. I mean, you just blew my...
Whoa.
I was ready to just shut this podcast off. Okay.
A lot of people did not get that, though. I don't know. They think it's a different girl. That's my fault, I guess. But
no,
it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I thought so, but be surprised.
But did you have like?
We had a version where after she spun around to the camera in the wheelchair, then we cut back to the beginning where she's like laughing over the talk show host's body, and you see Art the Clown is standing in the room. And he's across from her, and they're both like laughing and pointing at each other. So it's like, but it's supposed to be like him in her mind.
Yeah.
But that's just like I don't know. That just really wasn't working for me for whatever reason. Like I didn't want to hammer the idea that it's like they have this like connection now, or like she's the new Art the Clown. Like that has like there is none of that. Like she just went.
She can't be. She can't. No. He is the clown. That's it.
He's the only one. Like other people, are like, oh, do they have some link, or is she the next clown? No, she just went crazy. Like even though he didn't kill her, like he just destroyed her mentally, and that's it. But
so we're gonna see more Art the Clown in the future. Are you planning on?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have the whole sequel planned out. I have all the ideas. I just have to write it up, and hopefully somebody will give me money to make it, and then
Well,
slashers
have to have sequels, man.
They do.
Yeah, we need that.
That's funny too. That's another reason why. It's funny now that I think about it. That I don't think that was the original end of the movie.
You hear it here first.
Yeah. Oh God, it's gone through so much shit. I think it actually originally ended with him killing himself. And that was it. And then I was like, but you know what? People are going to be fucking... If they really like him, I thought people were going to be pissed. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be like, well, is that it? Like, he was so cool. Like, he's got to come back. So then I came up with the Morgue Scene. Even though the Morgue Scene is, like, super cliche and it's been done before. But, like, we had to... How else was it going to happen? It's like, I'm not going to have it take place like years later and shit. It's like, keep it all in that night. It's like, like what happens directly after that? How does he come back? Where are they going to take his body? So that was the only thing that made sense to me. Just to let the audience know that he is coming back. So I had to kind of cop out a little bit with that scene, but
it's like when you think of the big four, and we do bring up the big four: Texas Chain, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. This could be up there because he's just so brutal. And it just, I don't know. I think sky's the limit really for it. And as stupid as I sound, obviously you do need the funding and all these other things. But I think it's just, I can't think of anything else besides Saw. But Saw doesn't really have a slasher.
No.
So
yeah, that's on the slasher.
I can't. Maybe Laid to Rest. Laid to Rest was pretty brutal too. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
I know that's Chrome Skull, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him. I've seen clips, but I hear he's pretty awesome.
Those two movies are pretty fucking good.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah. So, I just out of curiosity, what are the screenings like that you've been to? Like, what sucked for me was not watching it in a theater. My friend Dan went to the Montclair one. I think he said he met you. Right? Were you there?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he talked to you. He does something called Inked Up Merch.
Oh, I know exactly. We talked for quite some time. He's awesome.
Yeah, that's our boy. Shout out to Dan Turr getting in on 31 episodes now. But watching it in a theater, like, what's the vibe? It's got to be great.
It's awesome, man. I said like that Montclair screening was I saw it in 3 theaters. The first time we ever screened it was a super rough cut in Telluride, Colorado, back in. It could have been 2016. That's how long we've been making this movie. But either 2016 or 17, and it was missing. It was actually missing scenes. It didn't have the coroner scene. It didn't have the decapitation scene. But still, like people, it really was like a friggin' concert. Like people were just screaming and shrieking and fucking, when he pulls the gun out and shoots Jenna in the leg like that, I'll never forget. Just people like being like, come on, like people just like flipping out. It's really cool. It's really fun to see with an audience. There's a lot of laughter. That's what surprised me more than anything, because I don't make horror movies to find laughs, to get laughs. You know what I mean? Like, even though I love Return of the Living Dead.
Yes,
that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's perfect. That's a perfect mix of like horror and comedy. But that's not my style of film to make. But like the comedy of Art the Clown just comes out naturally. We even went further with the comedy in Terrifier than in All Hallows Eve, because I knew it was going to be so much more brutal. So I didn't want it to be like a miserable experience for people, So I like the idea of him always kind of, not always, but once in a while, just kind of like winking to the audience, or just like making a gesture, or getting a laugh after he kills somebody. I thought it would be more of a fun experience as opposed to just like a really,
like yeah, that's true. I mean, like Return of the Living Dead. I mean, maybe they go a little bit on the funnier side, but like still, it's like there's nothing really funny that's going on there, especially the ending.
Right, the Return in that movie come out of the hysteria, of the characters. Them just reacting to the situation and just seeing grown men just scream and just lose their shit is really where most of the laughs come from. Like, it's played straight for the most part. It's really this horrible situation happening, but you just laugh at them. So yeah, I mean that's a perfect blend.
Perfect movie, and there's like few movies like I feel like horror comedies have kind of hit some good strides lately.
Sure.
I'll always say Scouts Guide to the Apocalypse. Yeah, that was like one of the best fucking horror movies I've ever seen. Like it's real. It reminded me of what Return of the Living Dead 2 could have been if it was better.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got that. Yep.
Yeah, there's a scene in the movie with a penis that stretches, and it's every time it comes on, I watch it. My girlfriend's just like, "You are fucking stupid," because I laugh. Like, I seen it the first time. Like, every time it's on, I'm like, "But it's a penis, and it's stretching, and it's funny."
That was funny.
She's like, "You're a fucking idiot." So,
I actually like Return of the Living Dead 2 a lot. I grew up watching that one, but I mean, obviously it doesn't hold a candle to the first one.
It doesn't, and number 2 was cool, and I love the Michael Jackson homage.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain things on there. The fact that it's basically the same movie, that was kind of weird.
Pretty much.
It just has a great feel. You know, it really, especially I watched that at such a young age. I mean,
Me too. Yeah.
Kind of nostalgia with that one, but yeah.
Didn't you get bummed out when like number 3 went straight to video and you're like, oh, this wasn't as good?
I didn't like part 3 at all.
Me neither.
I don't even remember part 3.
It's not.
Which one was the rave one?
Oh, that doesn't count. We'll never mention part 4 on this show ever again.
Yeah.
All right, man. So what's the future for you?
I think I'm gonna go into writing the sequel to Terrifier. I think that's what makes sense right now because I probably have the greatest opportunity of making that one. I think someone will throw me money faster to make that than you know. I have a vampire movie that I want to make. I feel like vampires haven't been scary in a long time. You know, like especially like Salem's Lot, the original Salem's Lot, like that. That would be incredible.
I think 30 Days of Night was pretty close.
That was cool. That was savage. Yeah, so I would love to mix like that kind of, savagery with, the vibe of Salem's Lot, but also have it be scary, So that would be. But my ultimate dream project is a zombie movie, that would be in the same world as George Romero's Day of the Dead. Like it would take place around the same time.
People say dawn. I'm a day guy. I go day over dawn.
I have no problem with that. Dawn is my favorite, but I'm equally obsessed with Day of the Dead. I mean, they're both just perfect zombie movies. I could talk either.
There's just something like I mentioned before. There's no hope in Day.
Exactly.
It's just
there's a very bleak doom. Just tone over the whole movie where you're like, exactly, it's hopeless, it's so dark, everybody's just lost their humanity.
It just like as I watched it at a young age, 7 I would imagine. And I was just thinking there's certain movies that I remember thinking watching and realizing that we're all gonna die, and it was that and Miracle Miracle Mile was another one that was like a weird random 1988 movie.
That's a great movie.
And I was like, wow, we're all going to die. This kind of sucks. I realized that.
Die getting eaten by zombies.
Yeah. Cool.
Or come back as a zombie, which is worse. But, yeah. I think Day of the Dead, there's something about going into the broad daylight and it being just as horrifying as the dark, as the night. That's something that really stuck out to me with that movie. It's just seeing the zombies in the middle of the day at the fence. And it's like there's just nowhere you could go. The sun doesn't even bring you, hope anymore. Nothing. It's oof.
That's how I feel. I remember watching it and being like, even if they leave here, where are they going to go?
There's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go.
That opening scene when they're on the helicopter in the city and the zombies are just walking around, that alligator and everything like that the city's completely abandoned. That's one of my favorite shots, that whole scenario.
God. Brilliant. He is one of my favorites, man. George Romero. I'm just, he's the best.
What'd you think of the later ones? Land of the Dead was okay, and then from there it was just kind of weird.
I thought they got progressively weaker as they went on. But you can't take. It doesn't matter though. You can't take anything away from them.
It's like Metallica. It's like Metallica.
They get a lifetime pass.
Yeah, Metallica's first 4 records.
They can do whatever the fuck they want now.
That's how I, not to say judge, I guess that's a harsh word, but that's how I judge, artists or whatever like that. If you did one thing, if you made one awesome song, you don't fucking owe me anything. Who's that? You're giving me some kind of pleasure. I'm getting enjoyment out of something you created. You know what I mean? That's enough. I'm not giving you anything in return. It's you're just giving me something for free. This guy gave me so much amazing shit. It's to be oh, but this sucked. It's chipping away at his legacy. It's fucking bullshit.
Listen, you're talking to someone that watches Friday the 13th could come out tomorrow. I remember watching Jason X in the theaters and being like, this is the worst ever. I don't know what happened. I thought 8 was terrible. I like Jason Goes to Hell personally. I liked it. And then, but as a fan, I'm always going to give these movies a chance because it's
they mean a lot to you.
Yeah,
you know?
We sat through Halloween Resurrect. No, what was the one with Busta Rhymes?
I think you're right. Resurrection.
Yeah. If that doesn't knock you out of the game, then you're a fan. That's it.
Exactly. Wait, how excited are you for the?
I am fucking pumped because I have all the faith in Danny McBride and his writing, and I like that they're going away from the brother-sister angle. So they're just going to take it after the first one. And to me, there is no scarier movie than the Halloween 1 and 2. 78 and 81, there's something about... And I kind of felt like a lot of like the direction that you used, some of like the camera angles and the way you felt, like it did have like a Carpenter-esque feel to it on like some of the scenes. And I like that. You pick it up. And I think that's why your movie is like a little bit far above like the most indie horror flicks, because like maybe you're just super talented, maybe you're just really good at it. I don't know, maybe the third one, I don't know.
I mean, I'm just like you guys, man. I'm just like a huge fan, and I just try and remember the things that worked, that had an effect on me when I was young, growing up, watching all these movies. And I'm such a huge John Carpenter fan.
Oh my god, the like
huge.
Yeah, you can't say enough.
Yeah.
Even Big Trouble in Little China, like, come on.
Incredible. I wanted to go off on a tangent before when you were talking about The Shape of Water. And just talk about, like, how, like, Starman did everything right. That, like, Shape of Water, for me, like, didn't work. Like, her falling in love with this alien. Like, I think Starman is possibly the most friggin' underrated movie of all time. Like, I think that movie is an absolute masterpiece. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But John Carpenter... So, like, there's a lot of shots in Terrifier. Like, one of my favorite things that John Carpenter does is whenever he cuts to some creepy presence just standing there, just silent, like in the fog, and you just cut to all of them, their silhouettes, and they're just standing. To me, that's the scariest stuff ever. You don't get scarier than that.
Yeah.
So, when I cut to Art the Clown just standing there holding the scalpel like a mannequin, that's a total homage to John Carpenter.
Or even just in the pizzeria smiling. You're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? So before we go, like, I just wanted to bring up Dread Central and your relationship with them through Rob G., who's a Long Island guy who I've known for a few years, well, a bunch now, because he was in a band with my drummer, and I don't know, he's like a horror dude from Long Island that moved to Cali, and he's doing his thing over there, man. How did that happen?
Well, what I'm curious, what instrument did Rob play in the band?
He played guitar and sang.
He sang?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he was in a band called Prescott C with our drummer, and a more known band called Pretty Polly.
What was the style?
I know that they were very big into the band Far. They were very big into the band Failure. Very big into the band Hum. So they had a very... I know there's 3 bands and most people don't. but still. I don't know. We're just going to have them send you some shit. So
yeah. But I got involved with them through actually Steve Barton at Dread Central, because I had a connection with Steve through Ruthless Pictures. I guess I don't know. I had his email stored, and when we were getting ready, because all the distributors were turning us down for Terrifier because of how violent it was for the most part. Like, other people wanted it, but they wanted to have the authority to cut things if need be. So, but I would never compromise. So we were really close. We were like a week away from going to self-distribution. And then I was like, well, now we got to start getting a push and stuff like that. So I was like trying to figure out if I had any people that could write reviews or get us some credibility. And then I remembered Steve with Dread Central. So I wrote him an email, and I was like, I got this movie, with the clown you remember from All Hallows Eve. I'm like, I'm trying to get some reviews. Would you mind checking it out? And then he's like, sure, man. He's like, send me a screener. And then I think the next day I got a text message from him, and he was like, he's like, what are you doing with this movie? He's like, did anybody pick it up yet? And I was like, no, not yet. We're about to go self-distribution. And he's like, don't do a fucking thing with it yet. He's like, this is awesome, man. He's like, this is like the horror movie that people like me, he's like, we've all been waiting for. He's like, and then he just told me about, how he just hooked up with Epic Pictures, and, that they were going to start putting out horror movies under the Dread Central label. And he's like, I love it. I want it. He's like, we're gonna make this work. He's like, we're gonna try and make it work. And to Steve's credit, man, like, I was really discouraged at that point, because I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, no one even watched this movie. I'm like, is there even an audience for this fucking movie anymore? Like, am I just so far gone in the past in my own little, am I so in my own little world where this is just a total fucking waste of time, And then, And then, yeah, man, it was really Steve just got me fired up again. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm like, all right, no, I did this for a reason. I'm like, there's still people like me, like fucking Steve out there that want to do this.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah.
how did that make you feel? Like you here's the guy that was like, did you sign it away yet? It's like, don't. It's like, this is awesome. Like, you know, like you get someone who is a genuine fan of like the genre and knows what you're doing and trying to do, and like that's it. He's gonna back it up, man. That must be a great fucking like a finally moment.
Exactly. It was a great feeling, man. It was like he totally championed the movie, and he just kind of just like lit my fires again, you know. So I was like, all right, cool, you know, it got me pumped, and and then it wound up working out with Epic, and Rob actually came on later. I think they hired him after we'd already been picked up, and then he came in and he was in charge of just overseeing, you know, pretty much every facet of the movie with marketing and everything like that. And, you know, Rob loves, he's old school like us. So he loves like hard copies and physical things. And he loves collecting Blu-rays and DVDs of horror movies. So he oversaw, the whole Blu-ray process. And he was adamant about making it really cool and like a collector's edition, and he wanted to put as many features, and you know he was all for like the double-sided artwork and the reversible cover and all that shit, and so it was really like Rob was great.
Is the DVD out yet?
Yeah, it's a DVD Blu-ray combo that you can get on Epic's website, and you can also get it on Amazon.com now.
And like, what are some of the features on it that you think are pretty cool?
There's commentary with me and Dave, Art the Clown. There's like a 20-minute featurette behind the scenes. There's an interview with Jenna Cannell, I think is 10 minutes long. There's 2 deleted scenes, trailers. Yeah, there's some cool shit on it. The coolest thing to me is you could flip the cover, and so we have like we have 2 pieces of artwork on the back. One from Sickwicks, if you know, she's on Instagram. She's fantastic. She did the artwork on one side, and then this artist Rick Melton did like this really cool. They both did like retro kind of grindhouse covers. You know, they both kind of like it's their own rendition of the Hacksaw sequence, which is I always wanted to put on the cover.
And isn't that cool now? Like I feel like a lot of I guess because people sometimes like avoid physical copies, but now I think in order to entice people to buy certain things like albums or whatever,
right,
they do have these different alternate artworks, which makes you want to buy it. Like I think that's fantastic. Like you get, like you said, like different types of posters. Like you could frame something like that, you know?
Yeah, you got to make it enticing because it's so easy for somebody to just buy something or just download it illegally, you know, watch it on the Fire Stick or whatever. So if you make it a collector's edition and make it worth having, and you know, you give them this cool artwork and you know, cool features, it makes it worth it. You know, you're not spending that much money. It's cool to have.
Does piracy like affect someone like you more, or like maybe like bigger studios that are used to having like a zillion dollars?
No, it definitely affects someone like me for sure. Yeah, I count on every single penny that comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely hurts. But you know, it's just the world we live in. We're all guilty of it. So it's tough.
I tried to push everyone to at least rent, you know, the movie. You know, like you even like
watch it on YouTube for
you can watch
$4.
it $4. Yeah,
it's a great deal.
How does that work? Like the YouTube deal for someone like you, like they charge you $4 for a stream. Like, is that just like a
You know, I honestly I don't know the ins and outs of that. I mean, that's something with the distributor. They make all those deals, you know. So I don't know like how it works with Amazon Prime, Vudu, iTunes. The distributor gets a percentage of that, and then we get a percentage of that, and trickles down. So I'll find out in probably 4 months how this all works.
Okay. And do you like the fact that All Hallows Eve is on Amazon? Like, is that cool?
Sure. Yeah. The more, especially All Hallows Eve, you know, the more the merrier wherever it is. You know, it's cool to just have eyes on Art the Clown at this point. You know, it's more about just building him as a brand, and hopefully people, you know, accept him and embrace him, and then we can make more movies and have fun with them. I definitely have tons of other ideas, especially for another one. I think after the next one, if there is a third one down the line, I think that's when it's going to get tricky. But the next one, there's a lot to explore with his a little bit with his origin. I don't want to go too deep into it, but we definitely need to shed a little light on what he is or who he is. And I have a lot of cool ideas for more kill scenes and a great hero, another female who's going to be an awesome character. So, yeah.
How did you know David was the guy? What stopped the last guy from continuing as Art the Clown?
The original actor was Mike Gianelli, and that's just one of my closest friends. And he's not an actor. So I think when I met him when I just got out of high school, and we became close friends. And I was just like the guy from American Beauty, just like walking around with the camcorder. Like all I did was film shit.
I thought you meant like the dad or something.
The other weirdo with the camera.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, him, Wes.
Yeah, but just filming short films, and that's when I really got heavy into prosthetic makeup when I met him, like actually making molds and making prosthetics that I sculpted on people's faces. So, he was one of the first people I made a life cast for, and I sculpted a zombie mask on him, and we applied it, and I would film it and take pictures and blah, blah, blah. And then so he just so happened to be this guy that I knew who didn't mind getting makeup thrown on him when I was making The Ninth Circle. And I was like, I need this clown character. Would you play it? So he played it, and then it just started snowballing. Even then, even on such a small scale, like people were like, even just close friends and relatives and whoever, they were like, that's cool, but that clown is fantastic. You got to do more stuff with that clown, And I would just listen and be like, all right, look, people are saying he's great. Let's just do more shit with him, And then we made the Terrifier short. But long story short, he's not an actor, And when it came time to do this movie, and I begged him to do it because I had a feeling like it was gonna, I always believed in this character and I thought it would just keep growing, but he was just didn't want to spend all that time in the makeup chair, and he just wasn't. It's just not his thing. So he just decided to pass on it. So then that was scary. Then we had to have auditions because now everybody. Whoever liked All Hallows Eve loved Art the Clown. Like he's, say what you want about the movie, negative comments, like everybody pretty much unanimously says but he's awesome, So it's like, great, now we got to replace like the only thing that worked in that fucking movie. So that was really scary. But we had people come in, and for whatever reason, Dave came in, and I was just like, the only direction I gave him was, pantomime chopping off somebody's head. that was really it, and so he came and he did his thing, and he was bringing all of these mannerisms, these kind of like over the top gestures and like this silent film quality to it that I hadn't seen before because Mike wasn't a trained actor, and I thought it was really cool. And he sawed the head off, and he's looking at it, and he's like licking the blood, and then he poured salt on it, like just doing all these like weird, crazy things. And I'm like, this guy's got something. Especially he had a physicality that I always wanted for Art the Clown. I always envisioned Art being much skinnier. That's why I sculpted this zombie kind of look, these features with the cheekbones, the sunken in eye sockets, and everything like that. And Mike was a little heavier than I wanted Art the Clown to be. So I thought Dave was just phenomenal. He brought all these things to the character that I never envisioned before. And he can give me a range. Like there was a spectrum that Dave brought where he can either play it like subdued or then really outlandish. And there was a whole spectrum. So he would give me, if we did 5 takes, he could give me like 5 different performances, and then I could choose in the editing room which one I wanted to use. So we could always go back to the very subdued, just Art the Clown just standing there, just being very, just very, very still and just, very, very simple and effective. But then there were these little things that he would do. Like there's that scene where Samantha Scafidi, who plays Victoria, slams the railroad spike into his foot. And she runs away. He gives her the finger. Yeah, that was all Dave. That was just me just yelling cut, and the camera was still rolling, and Dave just flipped her the bird. As she was coming back, and everybody on set laughed. And then in the editing room, I'm watching that, and I'm hearing it. I'm like, maybe. I'm like, I wouldn't write that. I don't think that's Art the Clown. I think that's a little too hokey and too on the nose. I'm like, but if it got a laugh there, it'll probably get a laugh in a theater, and it does. It works all the time. Every time he gives the finger, everybody laughs. So Dave was great.
Awesome, yeah.
So he'll be back. You're gonna work with him again on?
No, I'm gonna get somebody else.
Ah, good. Listen, if Kiss could replace people in makeup, so could you. Just get a different like Eric Carr. Or something. All right. Well, fuck, man. I guess that covers everything. The DVD's out, all that other shit. Like, if you haven't seen it, and I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've probably already seen it, because I'm going to tell people that obviously it contains spoilers.
Yes.
But thank you for doing it, man. Like, we genuinely love the movie. We love the subgenre, and this was awesome. Like, super fucking treat. Man. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for doing it, man.
Thank you.
And we're fans, so we're gonna check out everything you do, and hopefully the third one doesn't suck, because then we're just gonna have to stop supporting you.
You got to make a third one so you can do like 3D.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's plenty of gimmicks for us to fall back on.
No, but yeah, seriously, man, we're super psyched for you to do this, and to think that like Facebook Messenger works, and you wrote. No, actually, it was the email, and you wrote back, and I feel pretty lucky. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys, man. This was I'm grateful. Now I'm fans of you guys now, so this was an honor. Thank you for reaching out, and whenever you want to do this again, shoot the shit, man. This is just talking horror movies is a blast.
That's it. And next time we'll talk fucking, I know I wanted to get to your two movies, but the next one we could definitely talk about. Actually, you know what? Before you go, what are some of the last few horror movies that you've seen that you really liked?
Honestly, no new horror movies jumped out at me. Like all the ones that people, I don't want to badmouth horror movies, like famous horror movies, but a lot of ones that people loved that are famed. I liked It. I'm not talking about It. I actually did like the new It. But a lot of the ones that people are raving about now, like I didn't get. Like I don't think that they're as good as people are making them out to be. A new one that stood out, I can't think.
I mean, like you can go back 5, 7, 8 years, whatever you like. The last couple of movies that really you thought to yourself, like, here's someone doing something cool.
Shit. I don't know if it's a horror movie.
No, I mean, whatever. Go ahead. I
mean, I still love like everything Quentin Tarantino does. I have to see. I mean, he's
unbelievable.
He's just the man. I love the Hateful Eight. Absolutely.
I fucking love that movie.
Me too.
Let me tell you this. It was one of those things that people that are fans of his told me they did not like. So shame on me for being such a fan and being apprehensive about watching The Hateful Eight. When I actually sat down, I think it might have been on Netflix at the time, and I was like, fuck it, let me just watch it, because I loved fucking Django and Glorious Bastards. Like, the only movie that I didn't love was Jackie Brown. I loved everything. I loved Death Proof.
Yeah.
I watched Hateful Eight, and I was blown away. I was fucking blown away. He said that The Thing was an inspiration for that movie.
Sure, yeah.
And it just, for a movie to be that long and, of course, be very dialogue-driven, I was just fascinated, captivated from, I'm like, these characters are fucking great. Jennifer Jason Leigh was great. Like, all of it. Like, I can't say it's my favorite Tarantino movie besides the first two, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction. And then
I think that's a legitimate statement. I think I'm a huge fan of I love everything he does, but I'm a huge fan of the Inglourious Bastards as well. So I feel like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs you can't touch. Like they're always going to be the cream of the crop with his movies. But then I think it's an argument after that. If someone says Hateful Eight is his third best movie, like I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't really, I think it's. There was a week where I watched that every day. I just kept it on. on loop in my apartment because just the dialogue, everything was just music to my ears. I just couldn't get enough of it. It was just, and you just find more and more brilliant stuff in that movie.
It's like the beginning of Inglourious Bastards. Like that, like just that dialogue, like sitting there eating that cake, and they're like, it's so tense.
Yeah, I think that scene is arguably the best thing that he's ever written. That movie's just he's one of my favorites. My 8th grade yearbook, when they ask you like if you could be a famous person, who would you be? I put Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I'll tell you this, like where, you know, obviously, like as a musician, you know, certain people inspired me, but when I first saw Pulp Fiction, it made me want to write movies, which obviously I never did because I was probably not good at it. But it made me, like, Kevin Smith and Tarantino made.
I love Kevin Smith too, by the way, man. Huge Kevin.
Like,
I have all of his when he does his Q&As and stuff. Like, I have every one of those. I put them on all the time and just listen to him bullshit in the background. Man, I love him.
It just, like, it was different. Like, I like Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Clerks, Dogma. Like, it made me want to just write. And Pulp Fiction just blew my fucking lid off. Like, when I saw it, I'm like, oh. I mean, Reservoir Dogs, of course. But Pulp Fiction, the way it was presented, I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck is going on, but it's perfect.
That movie changed the game. Like, that changed filmmaking. That changed screenwriting, everything. Everybody wanted to be Quentin Tarantino when that movie came out. It changed the landscape of the movie industry, especially like the indie world. Everybody was trying to be Tarantino. You could always tell the poor man's Tarantino. Even if they're really good, they're never him. Never him. He's brilliant.
Yeah. All right. Well, we could keep going, but man, yo, thank you so much for doing it. And we'll talk again soon, I guess, you know.
Absolutely. My pleasure, guys, man. Have a good night, and thank you again. This was great.
Awesome.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you, man.
Take care.